na 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 na.
This is Robert and Lynette Graves. They are active supporters of an organization called FLAG, P-F-L-A-G. It stands for Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Now, I think it's kind of interesting, and although it's a very private thing, and you may wish not to tell me, can I ask what your religious orientation is?
We're Latter-day Saints, Mormons.
Okay. Now, Robert, what should a parent do if their child comes to them and says, I am gay? And as a religious Mormon, what does one say? And then what do you say?
I'll tell you briefly my experience, Sally. We raised 4 children in a strongly religious Mormon environment.
Okay.
And 3 of our children are straight and 1 is gay. One day my son came out 10 years ago to his mother, and we were leaving for a car trip, a long trip, and she told me in the car. I immediately pulled the car off at the nearest payphone.
Right.
And she was worried. What are you going to say? I said, I don't want him to be worrying for 5 more minutes about my reaction. I want him to know that I love him and that I will support him.
This brought any problems to you in your community and with your religion?
Well, if I may, let me just briefly finish the story. I got my son on the phone, and he was worried, and I said, Carrie, I want you to know that everything I've learned about homosexuality tells me that this is not something that you chose, and it's not something that you can change. But we want to work with you and learn more. We'll learn more about this together and find the way to help you to have the most productive, happy life that you can. And I think it's very important for parents to really get educated about the nature of homosexuality.
I wish you were my father. Yeah. Your understanding is amazing. Lynette. Has it caused any problems with being a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints?
Well, of course it will. When you have people who have, as we've already demonstrated today, it's not unique to Mormonism. It's not unique to Christianity.
Or Judaism.
It cuts across the religious spectrum, that when you have a differing point of view on something that strikes to fundamentally how you think life should be lived, of course, it can cause some difficulty. But one hopes that what pure religion is, after all, is love and patience and goodness, and that it's that can be an antidote and a healing factor. Sure.
Thank you. I am Jewish, but I've been in a loving relationship with a Christian for more than 18 years. It's a loving, spiritual relationship. One thing I've learned from him, and he is a true Christian, he's taught me about his religion, and to you, Nathan, to you, Roxanne, and to those before who claim to be Christians, exactly what did Jesus Christ ever say about homosexuality? Nothing, absolutely nothing. If you claim to be a Christian, please act Christian and love everyone. Thank you.
In answer to your question, I do believe it's the Old Testament, and I do believe it's in Leviticus, and I do believe that the phraseology has to do with man shall not lie with man. I think that's the phraseology. I'm not...
As they would with a woman.
Yes.
Well, of course, a man can't lie with that.
Well, of course, I'm just trying to answer that for you. I'm not endorsing it, sir. I'm merely telling you where it was located in the Bible. Go ahead.
I am a Christian, and I used to be a pastor in a Pentecostal denomination, and no longer able to be a pastor in that group because of my homosexuality. And I'm an ex-gay. I went through Exodus and did not find it successful. But the thing that I find the most troublesome about this is that Exodus says that they can heal you, but really what they teach you to do is how to learn how to not act on your sexual desires. They don't replace your sexual desires with sexual desires for the opposite sex. They just teach you how to not act on the desires that you do have. And a straight person is not attracted to someone of the opposite sex. And that would be true healing.
Sally, can I respond to that, please? I disagree. Exodus, I think, does more than teach you to change your behavior, because then that really wouldn't be true change. I think that healing is about healing the whole person and healing your passions and your desires. And I have experienced true change, and my passions and desires now are different. And
Okay.
so,
Have you been intimate with men or women?
no.
Okay. In front of us is Anthony. Anthony, help me with your pronunciation.
Falzerano.
Falzerano.
Irish.
I was going to leave, yeah, Anthony was going to leave out a syllable for you. And his wife, Diane. And Anthony feels that he used to be gay and that he has sustained a straight lifestyle through God for how many years?
17 years now.
17 years. So how do you answer those people who say that it is a short-term thing or a short-term fix?
Well, going from gay to straight is probably the hardest thing I ever did in my life. I was gay for 9 years of my life, from the time I was 17 until I was 26. In New York City.
Yes.
And I had what everyone else had, a similar experience, a born-again Christian experience. I began to see 35 of my friends die of AIDS in the 80s. I began to realize I was hitting my upper 20s. I'd never get married. I'd never have children. I know it displeased my parents, although my parents were very supportive of me. They never rejected me. And I just realized that it was time to grow up and work through the issues of my childhood that led me into the gay lifestyle.
What issues of your childhood would lead you into a gay lifestyle?
I now direct a ministry in Washington called Parents and Friends Ministries. We help gay people come out of the lifestyle. We sort of do what Exodus does.
But do you feel that something happened in your childhood? Am I hearing that something happened in your childhood that would make you...
And what I've seen over and over again happen is 75% of the people that I minister to, and including myself, I was sexually molested as a child.
I see.
Na 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 na.
Joining us is Kathy Renna. She is the news media director for GLAAD, which stands for Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Well, how do you react
Based on what
to...
Tony just said, I'm a gay man. To be perfectly frank, I mean, I think, I'm very insulted and offended by some of the statements being made here. I mean,
Why?
let's look at reality.
Why?
The founders of Exodus left Exodus. Why? Because they realized they were living a lie.
No.
And they're now a happy couple. And they have been for many years.
You can't use that baloney,
Anthony,
because that was 25 years ago,
we've done this
Kathy.
before, Sally.
Don't use
I
the
let
propaganda,
you finish. I let you
because
finish.
let's
Let me
be
finish.
honest here today. Talk about yourself.
I'd be happy to talk about myself because I had a perfectly healthy, wonderful, supportive childhood. I was not molested as a child. I think that canard is something that gets used constantly as propaganda. I grew up in a loving, supporting family.
What about an overbearing mother?
Kind of. I hope she doesn't watch the show. But no, but honestly, I mean, just to be
We
serious
blame mother
here.
for absolutely
My mother is
everything on the face
fantastic,
of
and I
the
don't think I'd be as driven and ambitious as I am today and as successful if it wasn't for her. But the fact of the matter is that I grew up in a loving, supportive family that loved me for who I was, allowed me to be who I am, and has really allowed me to self-actualize as a person. That's what the real issue is here. Are we going to live in a culture or a society
Why is it not the real
where
issue?
Because you're not really loving your children if you're loving someone into a lifestyle
I dare you to tell my mother that, Tony.
the
I
average
dare you.
male homosexual at 42 years old. That is the time that the average male homosexual
absolutely
dies.
ridiculous.
Now, that isn't loving your child. If you're coming from, excuse me a second. You're welcome to respond. Let me make my statement.
But you want
What I'm saying to you is that if you are a practicing Jew, a practicing Christian, a practicing Muslim, then we have to live by the dictates of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah. Please, please. And if you want to call yourself a practicing religious person, then you live by that religion. And I choose, pardon me, I choose